Hey, brothers and sisters, what's up? This is the Reluctant Nabi back again. And I am coming at you with another video. And this is going to kind of be a short beginning. Excuse me. Damn allergies. But I want to lay out the map here. Over years, around about the same time, you had two people's views on how to deal with the situation, the violence, a lot of things that were going on in the black community. All right. And I started to look at two particular messages overall from somebody that Afro people, black people always respected, Spike Lee, and someone that gained the respect of Afro men everywhere. All right. You have one that's talking to and speaking of the oppression of the leader, or who the should be leader of the Afro community, and one, in my take, that speaks to the continuation of what got us into the predicament we're in. All right. And so I want y'all to compare and contrast the messages. Um, and I'm looking at the movie X by Spike Lee. We'll get into that. And the movie Chiraq. All right. One, if you listen to, will do a great deal of healing within the Afro community, but the other will utterly destroy it. In either case, because of the exact problem of the Afro community, in that there is no repentance, a lot of these messages have not come too late, but a lot of the real help has been sabotaged, all right, by the system and by other Afro people, because we too hard-headed to listen to the real truth, because we have let wickedness and wicked thoughts circumvent good people. We have let weakness and the desire to be liked by those that persecute us to cloud our judgment and to continue patterns that are detrimental to us as individuals and to our families and communities also. Here's the contrast: Spike Lee versus Shahrazad Ali. All right. Let me greet everybody. Hovort and Haduguda, all the way to the bay. Pasas los bonje mezimi. Kedabawani konnichiwa. Niani ama. Sani bonani. Jambo harbarigani. Assalamu alaikum and shalom. All right. So let's break this down. All right. So let me remind you real quick. Let's get those thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. When you subscribe, click the notification bell. My Cash App and PayPal me will be in the description box if you like what this channel is doing, what this channel is teaching, and also what the channel is doing in the community physically. All right. So let's start peeling back this onion. All right. So who you have here is Spike Lee coming at you with the Hollywood mentality, because a lot of people in Hollywood And a lot of these people that wanted to make it in the film industry understood that you had to sell out your community. Oh, yes, I'm starting in with the quickness, with the comparison and contrast. But when I make this assertion, it has to be based on something, right? And basically, I'll make assertions based on blatant dishonesty that I find within, let's say, somebody's work. And some of the times you have some choices in dishonesty that is so iconic, it's ridiculous. All right. And I go in on Spike Lee because of what he did in the Malcolm X movie called Out X. Everybody enjoyed the movie, right? And no one really thought about it. Why? Because what's the likelihood that Afro people would go back and actually look at the content of what Malcolm X said? In other words, he took Malcolm X's life and beliefs, put them in a movie, and would have you thinking that Malcolm X supported the Democrats. All right. Now, he didn't have to come out and say it, but Spike Lee supports the Democrats. So basically, he's not going to make a movie about a guy who whose views on politics was blatantly opposite of his. Okay? He's not going to make a movie about a guy and have you believe what the guy actually thought if the belief was opposite of his. If that belief was confrontational to his own belief. If that belief called out Spike Lee. All right? So in the movie, all references to Malcolm X's total political views and who he thought was the culprit was of the devastation to the Afro community was then hidden. And then you have the one famous part where he's making a speech. And in that speech, he said, "You've been took, bamboozled, led astray." But he didn't give the context of what that speech was about. And to quote Malcolm X, he said in that speech, "If you are a black person that votes Democratic, you are a traitor to your race." So the speech was all about Lyndon Baines Johnson and his policies against the Afro community. Not only that, it was about the Democrat, that speech, the battle of the ballot or the bullet was about not only Lyndon Baines Johnson, but the whole Democratic system, the party system that was an affront to Afro existence, from eugenics, Gloria Sanger, all the way up to the time Lyndon Baines Johnson. Understand this. Spike Lee hit that in the movie because, well, the speech is 52 minutes long, all right, and it's on this channel. Just look up Ballot or the Bullet, Malcolm X total speech, or just put in my name, Reluctanabi, Ballot of the Bullet, in the search, and it'll pull up the entire speech. But when you're listening to it, all right, when you are listening to the speech, And I just have a listening party on live so that we can just listen to it. But when you are listening to the speech, Malcolm X makes that point clear. When you watch Spike Lee movies and look at Spike Lee's politics, his politics are opposite of the movie and the guy that he says he supports. I think that was a sheep's and wolves clothing to further galvanize people to a party that has never been good for us. I'm glad that's starting to change. This is why his other solution, Chiraq, let's take a look at it. His other solution, Chiraq, on the problems within the Afro community, doesn't hold water or weight. All right? He figures that the problem, which is the BAW know who chooses as her mate thugs, criminals, who chooses as her mate thugs and criminals. This is statistically true that 59%, or what is it? 59% of 70% of black females are a single mother. 59% of those have multiple children from multiple babies' daddy. 61% of men that have multiple children from multiple babies' mamas are dudes that just came out of prison and or jail. So the women are actually going and choosing the weakest minded, the weakest in resource men to produce children with, to create a cyclical thing in a community whereby over and over and over again you have this reproduction of violence. His solution in the movie Chiraq is to get the women, understand this, to hold back the thing that hold back their BJJ from the very thing that makes them want to give up the VJJ, the thug spirit, that dangerous spirit. Now, mind you, he's promoting in a movie that women start using, or it's okay for women, because they've been doing this, to use the VJJ as a instrument of a weapon instead of building love between the good. That ideology contrasts differently from Shahrazad Ali. And I wanted to take a moment so that we could listen to what she is saying in one of her speeches. Pay attention, y'all. Shahrazad Ali.
My position is that the black woman's disrespect and rebellion against the leadership and the authority of the black man is a direct cause of the breakdown in our black family structure. Now, of course, there are many black people who consider those fighting words because as black women, we have never been subject to the kind of examination that our men have been subject to since we have been here.
Look at how she starts off with the truth. And still to this day, we'll get into a news report on Kobe Bryant's family.
We have been somewhat protected and
Brandy
shielded from any kind of critiquing about our personal behavior, whereas our men have always been up for examination. The book is not an attack on black women. I have never said that all black women do everything that I list in my book. None of us have lived long enough to do everything that I list in the book, but most of us do some of the things that I've listed in my book. And I do say that it is not because of generalizations that we are all victimized by some of the negative patterns of behavior in the book, but the book just represents our collective contribution. This is some of everything that we have done or that we do daily that contributes to the breakup of our relationship, the destruction of our man, and the failure of our children to be able to function. They did not tell us that all of that, being my own person and I'm independent, would lead to separation, loneliness, celibacy, and lesbianism. They didn't tell us that if you give up the man, you're going to take one of these things and it's worse and it will destroy your nation. They didn't give us that information. They made us think that it was some kind of glorified position to brag about the fact that I got my own job, my own credit card, my own car, so I don't need no man. I don't even know how we got that mixed up. Ain't none of that got nothing to do with being with no man. We have some serious relationship problems that nobody has been able to address us on because everybody wants to pretend that this is not going on. Over 60% of our women are single, widowed, separated, or divorced. They don't have a man. I just came out of Florida and they got a housing complex that the Urban League built, which is a black organization that is for women and children only. They say they don't allow any men in there.
I talked about this in regards to the Urban League, about how you say you're the Urban League and you create a system that eliminates the men, but you decide as the Urban League to take money that you want men to donate to you to give to women that make bad decisions on mates, and you want to continue that thing. That's what the projects were. The Urban League is just doing another version of the projects, only projects run by Afro men. Nope, not Afro men, black men.
I didn't have time to deal with it, but I talked about them real bad. That's the silliest program I've ever heard of. You know them women that had men if they got a bunch of children. They need fathers. They need protection. We hear about the drug problem that we have in our projects across the country. It's one of the major places that we have a drug problem. We talk about the great strength that we have as black women. Well, the welfare department don't rent government apartments to single black men. Those apartments belong to black women who are allowing this to go on in their home. We have not looked at what part of the responsibility do we share. Yes, black men sell a lot of drugs, and a lot of us black women get the money from them drugs and buy some of these fancy clothes we wear. Drive around in some of these fancy cars. He is not doing these things alone and without support from us, whether they are good or bad. See, we have a lot of power. We are very strong women. I'm saying that we're using our strength in the wrong direction. We're using it to tear our man down, tear our nation down, instead of building it up. Having an education and a job does not necessarily mean you have a successful life. I keep telling black women that to raise a child, they say, well, I provided with food, clothing, and shelter. That's not raising a child, that's maintaining one. To raise a child, you need a parental coalition of a man and a woman. We have sons who, by not having a father in the home, they don't know how to respect women. They take on the black female emotionalism. They're doubtful, they're indecisive, they can't make a decision. They don't know what to do about being a man because we can't teach them that. We don't have that knowledge. We have daughters who grow up in a home where they don't see any affection, where there's no man there. They go out into the world and try to mate. They don't have no idea how to be no woman to no man, how to function in a house with a man, because they haven't seen it. Most of our children, just like us, get all the information we have about how you be with a mate off television. It's the only medium that shows us anybody being together. Those rules have not worked for us. The white woman's liberation movement, we don't have anything to do with that. We have not been under the control of the black man for over 500 years, so what do we have to get liberated from them from? They haven't been our boss. That's the white woman and her man. They're going through that, and that's their business. We don't have any business being in there. They only introduced it to break down the civil rights movement. Civil rights movement started with the black man, the black woman, and the black child standing together, trying to plead for freedom, justice, and equality, and more benefits in the country that they had built. They threw the white woman in there with the women's liberation movement and made it a woman against man thing. That created a big separation between black men and black women, because then everybody started going for self. Then they bring the welfare system in and tell us in order to feed and clothe and house our children, we have to give up our man. You have to put the man out of the house.
And a lot of these dudes they're not old enough that's been listening, hold on, that's been listening to this speech, don't understand that the feminist movement, you had the ERA, which was the equal rights movement, that women wanted equal rights, but then you had the feminists, which was a whole nother agenda that took over, and the feminist movement was created to shut down the civil rights movement. All right. So for some of you young bucks that's like, I don't think the feminist movement, you're still arguing the 2020, 2019 argument of ignorance from the from the youth who do not become aware of history. When I go to any other country, I try to be as aware of their history as possible by actually studying their history, knowing who did what, who was what, and why the community got the way it is. We are the only group that will not go back and look at history and really analyze the things that were given to us and how they affected us, and especially analyze when these things were given. All right?
When the white farm wife goes to the government for subsidy for the farm, they don't tell her to get rid of the farmer. They keep that family together. But in the black community, they make it a requirement because they want to keep endorsing into the black community that the black man is no good and that he is not deserving of respect, he is not deserving of us letting him give us any protection or instruction, and that we are better than them. The major responsibility that the black woman has had on the earth for the trillions of years that we have been here has been one of nutrition and birthing children. Those two things have a great deal to do with the survival of any people, the reproduction of the nation, and feeding them the proper food so that they can live. Those are very important jobs. Those are very powerful positions because it puts us in a position to decide who's going to live or die and how slow they're going to die by what we feed them. We have a very powerful position. That's not a small role that we play. We have just been taught to misrepresent and misuse that power. The people who we have been counting on to give us the truth about how to get along have failed. The white people don't know how to get along. They don't have that information themselves. They don't get along with nobody on earth. So they didn't have no information to impart to us about how we're supposed to get along. They change their relationship rules at will. We have, tons of black children around this country that I hear from who have grown up traumatized by the fact that they were referred to as the outside child. When we were having children like that, they called it illegitimate children until the white woman started having them, and now it's single parenting. See, they changed the rules according to what they're doing. So I've called on our people to change them depending on what we want to do, what our needs are. There's another need that has not been addressed in our community, because nobody...
I keep telling y'all, we need to redefine our own terminology and stop allowing people to pigeonhole us into the box of our oppressors, which now becomes an entire system. We don't follow that. Somebody asked me, why you use Afro? Because we're capable of growing one. All right? The more capable you growing a thick Afro, the more you are indigenous to this land and to the rest of the lands, Aboriginal.
Nobody will deal with it, and that's one that God did not create three sexes. We only have men and women. Now, I have not said that we should reject the sisters who try and act like men and the men who try and act like women. I'm not saying to reject them from among us, but they need to be taught. We don't have to accept that as some kind of normalcy because that's not normal. I'm trying to demonstrate how they have set rules that they have forced us to follow that they don't even follow themselves. They change the rules to suit them when they get ready. We can change them to suit us when we get ready, especially if we have what we have now, which is a failing system. It hasn't worked for us. We don't have to be ashamed that it hasn't worked for us. But we do have to be ashamed of the fact that we keep plodding behind it and not trying to make the corrections that will help our people to survive.
All right. So there you have it. So there you have it. So Shahrazad Ali versus Spike Lee. All right. You got just a different kind of contrast in the views. One by somebody that has been sold out. Both are making money doing what they're doing, but one made their money by selling out the system, and the other is making their money by espousing what they've seen as an elder in the community and calling out the very people that have created the problems in the community. Yes, the BAW, you know who. All right. One whose answer was for the women that love the people that they pick to cause the problems in the community to then turn around and do something worse and withhold and use and weaponize their BJJ against those that don't follow any laws anyway. All right. Thinking that the BJJ is stronger than, well, the armament that these men carry around, oh, and their physical prowess. And even with that, that still doesn't work because in Spike Lee's assertion, the very thing that he's asking the creators of the problem to solve, and the very thing he's asking them to use, is the very thing that they won't use because they like the type of men that they pick. And they like being with them intimately because they cause problems. It makes them feel a certain kind of way to have that, how they say it, that hood love. Ain't that how y'all know the lady, Young Miami or something, needed that hood love. So this dude is depending somebody who wanted the harshest, wicked, most violent people in the community to now control them through the thing that makes her just excited to be with them. That's not going to happen. And then you have the other, a woman that's right now overshadowing a lot of these messages because, as she said, while the Afro man has been examined, many of these dudes, like a Spike Lee, are too afraid to examine their cash cow, the BAW know who. And they are also afraid to offend their industry, which has been hell bent on our destruction as Afro men. Think about that. Both people want us to unify with the very creature that despises the good. And that's not going to happen. What she said is they don't repent. And that's a problem. Right? However, at the end of the day, they'll either repent or hit this wall alone. Because good Afro men aren't having it anymore. Stick a fork in us, we are done. We are sick and tired of all the BS, and we are sick and tired of people holding us responsible for the choices of the BAW, you know who would sell us out for nothing. All right? They could do things, but you're going to judge the man for leaving. All right? You can't come after, you have no ammo to come after the man that it was not chosen to be in the community and ask him to stay somewhere where he is not welcome. There is no ammo coming from anybody to do that. And it just simply is not going to happen. This is a no depolicing zone. Brothers, we need to save ourselves and our seeds. With that said, I'm out.